All right. Well, you're giving all your tips away before you
I
start
know.
talking.
I know.
Uh, yeah. So I'll let you sit down, Julio.
Sweet.
I asked Julio if he can do some talking because I'm a little bit sick. So if I elbow tap you instead of give you the handshake, that's why. My name's Jonathan. For any of you guys that don't know me, I'm always super grateful for all of you guys showing up Saturday morning when it's beautiful out. So one thing I always start with is just gratitude and praise. We switched our location here and super grateful that Emron Khan can give us this space and share it with us. Uh, Not only is he a real estate closing attorney, but he also owns a title insurance company, All Tech National Title. So if you guys need any attorney or title insurance help, if you're a wholesaler and needs an attorney that's friendly to wholesale. Emron's a perfect guy to contact. He's not here today, but his cards are scattered throughout the office. The other thing I'm always trying to push on all of you is to give back as much as you can. Julio donated, I don't remember, he agreed to donate $1,000. I haven't seen it yet. But I'm a member of the board of the True Value Boys and Girls Club. There's just like a QR code back there. And I'll put the QR code on the screen just because I'm thinking about it and I think I actually had it ready. So if you are willing and able to donate anything, that would be greatly appreciated. And I'll leave that up on the screen for everyone who's actually online. We got a couple guests online. Um, and then, yeah, the 3 steps I just like to remind everyone while they're here is just to educate and learn, continue to network, and take action. I think it's easy to come to these events and get pumped up, but the action isn't taken. So one of the things I'm always trying to do when I'm going to different events, I was at a conference this past week about remodeling and technology is when I come home on my plane, like I literally write what my action items are coming out of the event. And I think all of us have some type of action item that we can take out of this event. And so I just encourage you to figure out that implementation thing, because for me, that's usually the hardest part. It's not getting amped up and getting here. It's actually implementing something I learned here that I want to go put into place. And so I always encourage action as fast as possible. As soon as you get out of this space, I'll stop sharing the screen. And then, yeah, I'm super excited that Jeff Ma has agreed to come and talk with us. He's obviously become one of my great friends here in the real estate game. It's funny how you get involved and the longer you're involved, your friendships continue to grow. He's a really great friend. I actually wanted to see if you could start talking about more of the beginning of your life and
Okay.
getting into real estate before we jump into all the
I'd love
real
to.
estate things, because I think it's easy to see people up here and talking, but I think everyone has gone through some type of troubles. And I think it's worth talking about what you went through to get to where you're at, to start things off. Is that cool?
Love to.
All
Thank you.
right. I'll let you guys kind of go from there.
Awesome.
All right.
Hi, guys. My name is Jeffrey Ma. I'm a real estate broker, investor, and coach here in the city of Chicago. I grew up, I was actually born in the city. I was born in Edgewater, but then I grew up on the North Shore. So I actually went to New Trier High School and I graduated in 2007. And I actually lived in China for 2 years and came back and didn't realize the world had gone to shit. Uh 2010, come back. I'm like, what happened? I've been in China. The Olympics happened. I was there for 2 years, being good, being bad, teaching English. Came back because mom and dad are like, you need to go to school. So I'm like, okay, great, right? Like any good Asian parent, or they want their kids to go to college to become a doctor, attorney. I was never going to be a doctor or attorney. I wasn't that book smart, but came back and found out we are about to lose the house. This is the house I grew up in my whole life. 20 plus years of equity was about to be wiped away. We were getting foreclosed on, like a lot of American families back in 2008 to 2010. My parents did what they can to try to keep things together, but they didn't know what to do. So they just let the bank take the property back. right? 20 years worth of equity, all that hard work. My parents came to this country with only $23 in their pocket and worked their asses off to get me and my brothers to go to one of the, what I would consider one of the best public high schools in all of Illinois. And that was a huge shift in like, yeah, the world is not what you think it is. And it slapped me so hard that the one thing that we were able to keep, we lost everything. Savings, retirements. My dad had a cash in all of our life insurance plans, everything. And the only thing that we still had was the restaurant. And that restaurant is actually still around today. And worked our asses off just to come back, right? So if you ever get foreclosed on, which don't ever get yourself in foreclosure, there are many ways to get yourself out of actually foreclosure. And whether you're going to lose your equity or the house, having that on your record and having a credit score hit, it's like you're starting not even from ground zero, you're starting below the ground, because now you can't even get a credit card. You can't get approved for rentals. Like, it was really tough. Luckily, then we found a nice family that was able to rent to us, and we were all cash because we're a restaurant business, right? We were paying all cash. And um that inspired me to like, man, I never want to go through that ever again. That feeling of hopelessness, like you have no clue. The world is just happening to you and you can't do anything about it. You just got to go along for the ride. And that feeling right there was just like, fuck that. Right. And so, working my ass off, went to school, went to UIC, got a degree in entrepreneurship, never used it. Uh,
What was the degree? What did they teach
it
you?
was the first year that they had entrepreneurship as a major. Didn't really teach you much about opening up a business or being an entrepreneur, right? It was just more understanding profit and loss a little bit, different corporations, entity structures. You really didn't learn that much. But I grew up in the restaurant business, and I originally thought that was my life then, right? I was just going to open up another restaurant, go into the family business and move forward. And then one day my friend hits me up, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm like, shit, yeah, I want to get my real estate license. There's money in real estate. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki definitely shifted my mindset towards like, okay, I need to buy assets, right? And not liabilities. I need to buy assets. So I got my real estate license because I didn't know how else to get into real estate. School didn't teach you anything about real estate. At that time, it was like 2016-ish, 2015-ish. No one on YouTube was really talking about real estate. YouTube was more just pure entertainment and content, right?
Mhm.
It didn't have a lot of the educational stuff that you can find thousands and thousands of videos on today. But I got my license. I bought a Groupon crash course, guys. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Groupon crash course. I paid like $258 for the crash course, 90 hour class, 90 hours. Went blasted through that, got my license. I'm like, yeah, this is it. All right, I got my license. Step one. Right. Join a good friend's brokerage. And at the time, I coming from the restaurant business, I had no clue how to start in real estate, right? If anybody have their license here, real estate license? Couple of us? Okay. They don't teach you anything. FYI. They teach you some important stuff, like legal stuff. But in terms of actually real estate, in terms of contracts, in terms of negotiations, in terms of ARVs, comps, understanding that, you're not taught any of that. Right. So going into it, I'm just like, okay. First 2 years, I didn't make a single dollar. Technically, I was negative because I was paying my dues. I was paying my association dues, right? And I was a madman. I was like, wherever I could in the morning, I was taking rental showing appointments in Waukegan, living in Chicago, right? I was going out to Palatine, Naperville, wherever I could go to try and make something work. But I didn't realize, I was thinking, growing up in the restaurant business, it's very transactional. Hey, order your food, here's your food, make my money, right? Oh, same thought. Go show a place, they like it, sign a contract, make a commission. But no one ever taught me about the importance of building that relationship or showing up and really building up, like building real rapport, right? Real rapport to me is not, oh, it's a nice day today. How are you doing? Oh yeah, we grew up in the same neighborhood. No, real rapport is when you actually get to deal with someone, when you get to actually meet someone and learn who they are and help them get to that next level or step in their life. So first 2 years, nothing. 2018, the foreclosure off my mom's record fell off, and she was finally able to purchase a home again. So mom, thank you, mom. Mom was the first deal I ever did. And in that process, I'm like, oh crap. And like when we went under contract, I didn't even know I didn't know how to write a contract. Like the multi-board 7.0 contract, it's pretty hefty. It's not as intimidating as it really is once you go through it. But in the very beginning, I'm like, oh shit, you don't want to mark anything wrong, because if they sign it, hey, it's in writing, right? First deal I ever had. Still have the house. It's in Morton Grove. Beautiful 2-bed, 1-bath, little split level home. Actually, it'll probably appraise for maybe close to 400 today. We bought it for 275 in 20. So goodbye. But you know, in that process of trying to, I got my license because I wanted to invest, not because I wanted to be a broker. But again, I didn't know how else to get into real estate. So I'm just going through the motions. And eventually I start putting myself out there, going to networking events, going to different seminars, 2-day seminars, 3-day seminars, learn everything. And then obviously and wait, there's more. If you buy today, it's only $19.99, right? I don't know how many of those events I've been to, but I've spent quite a bit of money trying to excel myself to that next level of just understanding real estate, at least at an investment point. And that's what brought me into wholesaling. So funny thing, since 2018 to 2020, I was just being a regular broker. 2020 hit, another shit show for all of us. Again, we're in the restaurant business. You can imagine Chinese food wasn't really the hottest takeout during the pandemic, right? And we had a restaurant in Old Town. We used to do BYOB karaoke parties. That got shut down because we didn't quite listen to the mandate. Sorry. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because that actually gave me time to really focus on real estate. I also had to help mom at her other restaurant. So since 2020, I've been working 7 days a week nonstop. I'm either at the restaurant or I'm hustling in my real estate business. If I'm lucky, I'll take a half day off and sleep in and get back to work. But through those different tough points in my life, it put me in a position where I had to figure shit out. And from then, that's when I actually found wholesaling back in 2020 to 2021. I knew about wholesaling, but I had only knew it from the point of get a property, get it under contract, sell the contract, make a wholesale fee, right? And the strategy was wholesale enough deals to make enough money to fix and flip, to make enough money to eventually buy and hold, which is not a bad strategy. But at the time that I had learned about it, people were telling me to do bandit signs. And if you know what a bandit sign is, if you're ever driving to Midway and you get off of Cicero and you're wondering that yellow sign on the road, it's a bandit sign, because it's not supposed to be there. But I'm just like, I just didn't really know how to get it started. And finally, I found a mentor that changed my whole perspective of wholesaling, because wholesaling is, to me, a strategy you could use at any level, whether you're a beginner or you're high level. You could wholesale single family, condos, multifamily, land. You could wholesale businesses. And once you kind of grasp that whole strategy, and once you can really understand values, investments, and where the numbers need to be at, you then open yourself up to a whole different world. And because of wholesaling, right, to me, some people see it as like, oh, well, why are you making 10 grand on an assignment fee? Seller's making 50, seller's getting 50, and then you're going to sell it to a fix and flipper. Isn't that wrong? I'm like, well, in my mind, no. For the value that I have to bring in order to understand that the numbers of that property and to build the relationships that it took me to sell to a cash investor, That to me is worth the 10 grand that I put in all my hard work and effort, right? And not only that, most brokers, they don't want that $50,000 listing. They don't want that $30,000 listing. They don't want to go to the South Side, Inglewood. They don't want to go to Roseland, West Pullman, right? Most brokers are staying on the North Side, West suburbs, right? Because they want a higher listing price. And it makes sense, right? My very first listing was a 2-flat in Inglewood. I took it on because I wanted to learn. 2-flat in Inglewood, we listed it for $35,000. It was a full gut. It needed a full gut. Got it under contract for 30, couldn't sell it because we found out the water line was connected to the neighbor's house. So we couldn't get a water certificate. I'm like, oh crap, what do we do now? If I was a little bit smarter, I would have found the actual buyer of next door. But I found the agent because I knew the house next door, also full gut, needed to sold maybe like 3-4 months ago. And it was a full gut, same exact building layout, sold for like 35. So I contacted the broker. Would your client be interested? They said yes. We agreed to a purchase price of 18,000. Got the thing sold after 6 months worth of work. Anybody want to know what my take home was? 287. $287
Jesus.
of 6 months work. You tell me what broker wants that kind of commission, right? So hope in my whole world. Wholesaling is also an ability to help the areas that nobody wants to touch. Because to me, it's like, in some deals, I don't make that much. Smallest deal I ever made was $500. Biggest one was 50 grand. Right? It all depends on your negotiations. And to me, it opened the whole world of investing to me. Technically, in my opinion, I'm not truly investing because I'm still very transactional, but it gives me the starting point of understanding what is a good investment. So once I see that one that's really good, I'm gonna keep that. But yeah, guys, like honestly, it took me probably from 2016 until about 2 years ago. Took me roughly about like good 6 years to really just grasp real estate. Right. And I think the number one factor of success is just don't give up. Wherever you're at on your storyline, it's just you just don't give up. No matter how long it takes you, no matter how many setbacks you have, like you just keep moving forward and you will eventually get there. Right. Now, be a little bit smart about your approach, but yeah, just don't give up.
That's an awesome story.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Very heartfelt story too. Speaking of things about real estate and wholesaling, what are some common challenges and pitfalls that maybe wholesalers have a challenge with?
Great question. Great question. Wholesalers, I think a lot of people trying to get into real estate start with wholesaling because in terms of actual investment, money-wise, and needing to get a deal done is the lowest. There is an ability for you to get a deal done with no money out of pocket, but you're going to spend a lot of time for sure. You're going to be on that phone calling. You're going to be negotiating. You're going to be banging your head against the wall. Like, why? 99% of the people are just going to tell you no. And then of the 1% that tell you yes, at least like 10 of them are just going to be unreasonable. Right? It's like the numbers don't make sense. But for wholesalers that are first starting out, the number one challenge is consistency, I think. The more you're consistent at what you're doing, you'll find ways to get better. You'll be like, oh, damn it. Seller yelled at me at that time. I should have reacted this way to be able to turn around the conversation. Right. So I was like, seller wanted 100 grand and I offered 30 and he told me to, fuck off. And it's like, well, hey, I totally understand it's a very, very low number, but you have to understand the cost of inflation, the cost of materials, labor have all gone up. The home won't sell for as much as you think it is after it's all fixed and flipped. Can I show you those numbers? Well, yeah, and you'd be surprised if you get them down. I literally just had a deal I just assigned. Guy wanted 200 for it. We agreed at 90. Obviously, he was aiming a little high, but it just takes conversation, right? The number one skill set, bar none, is communication. Knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to communicate with people, right? In a difficult situation, in a happy situation, in a confusing situation, however you can help to clearly and effectively communicate to get them from point A to point B, that's a skill set. Like it really truly is, right? When like wholesaling, technically you're not selling anything, but you're in sales. No doubt about it. You're in sales. You are working to get them to get on a number that's going to work for you and them and for your cash buyer, fix and flipper. But great question.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I hope I answered that.
Besides communication and consistency,
Mhm.
what other marketing, is it anything to do with the marketing that they do?
Great question again. Here's another mistake I see a lot of wholesalers make. They try too many marketing channels in the very beginning. I could speak from experience. I was trying to do cold calling, text blasting. I was doing agent outreach. I was doing Facebook. Like for me, and these were actually very low cost methods of trying to get leads, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, what is the best list? What are the best leads?
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, the better leads, the better deals, but the best list is the one you work the most. It really is, right? It's not just pre-foreclosure, it's not probate, it's not code violations, not tax liens. It's whatever list you work the most is where you're going to have success. It's not. So we're thinking big ass net, I'm gonna catch something, but you're only one person, you're not going to be able to reel in that net. Right? If you're solo at the very beginning, or even if you have a partner possibly, right? Stick with one method and really work it, and like really work it. A lot of people will fall short and like, oh well, I followed up with him like 5 times. Did the house sell yet? No. Then what are you stopping for? Right. It's like, well, and then like, well, someone showed me this marketing method. Someone showed me this marketing method. I've spent a lot of different money on different things, and they all work. They all work. I have a guy that still does bandit signs, and it still works, but it's all about consistency. How long are you willing to do it? Because eventually you will find someone that's going to either call that number or is going to answer your phone call, whatever it is, right? Just stick with that one method and really work it. So for me right now, since I was doing all that too much, actually what started working for me was just Facebook, actually. Because I started putting myself out there, because I started taking time to actually help other people in the process, I had people naturally bring potential deals to me. And then from there, I would see if I have a buyer for it or not. Or if I didn't have a buyer, I would let them know, hey, I don't have a buyer, but I could help you see if I can find one. Right. I think that's the other part, is that wholesalers don't have a lot of transparency, because you don't want to show your hand. Right. You're playing cards, you don't want to show your hand. So a lot of wholesalers can have trouble being transparent of like, oh yeah, I'm a buyer, and you're just a wholesaler. Right. It's like, well, look, no, if you have a buyer, for a real buyer, just let me know. But in some of them are still in the midst of learning and trying to figure this thing out, that they won't tell you exactly what they're trying to do because they're still trying to figure it out. And I don't blame them for at all. Like I've had one of my deals that I sent out to potentially find a buyer, and someone tried to sell the deal back to me for like 50 grand more. And it happens. It's just like, they call it daisy chaining, right?
Yeah.
It's like you took someone else's deal without their permission and then try to sell it for more money. That's a big no-no in the community, but I understand why they did it, because they probably learned off of some YouTube video and they're just giving it a shot. They're just giving it a try. So like, kudos for you if you're taking a shot and going for it, but understand like transparency goes so much further. It's like, hey, I think I have a buyer for this deal. Can I share it with them? Right. And then at that same time, I'm going to talk to them. Hey, I know you have it at 55K. I think my buyer is willing to take, I don't know if my buyer is going to buy it at 55, but if he does, can you squeeze me into the deal? Right. I need to make something as well. Some of them are going to tell you, no, you have to add your number on top. Okay, all right, I'm gonna try to sell it to him for 60K and try to make 5. But again, therein lies communication and being able to negotiate your cut. For me, I don't like you make this much, I make this much, unless I'm just happy with that amount. For the most part, I'd rather do a percentage. Either we're going 50-50. If I'm doing the majority of the work, I would say I want 80, you get 20. I'll lock it up and sell it for you, but you put in the effort of finding the deal for me. Like, I want to compensate that accordingly. I probably pay way too much for that, honestly. But to me, like, if I can put some more money into your pocket and help you along your journey, and as long as you're still on track, you're going to bring another deal to me and we can still make more money. So that's another thing, is that a lot of wholesalers get a little bit of a scarcity mindset. Um, they're like, oh, someone might steal my deal. That's telling me you're not confident in that deal either. You're not confident that you could sell it. You're afraid someone's going to circumvent you and go to the other seller directly and get the deal sold. But if you have it locked up for sure, you got a deal locked up. Get that thing sold. All right. Your numbers make sense. But yeah. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
Thank you. If you could tell us, Jeff, a little bit, some juicy stories. I'm pretty sure you have some juicy stories. Let's say you tell us the biggest win that you had,
Okay.
and how did you manage to either save the deal or what got you there?
Mhm.
And then if you could tell us, there's good and bad. So if you could tell us a lesson, something that went bad in the wholesale transaction, and what did you learn from it?
Great question. Man, there's so many.
There's
So many hairy deals. Like, so the biggest one we did was 50K so far. Rest of his soul, he was a partner I was working with, no longer with us. He had a relationship with the seller. Seller was actually a a pastor, and actually owned several properties, but this one he acquired, didn't do anything. This was a Greystone in Bronzeville off of Martin Luther King Drive. This thing needed everything. It had a nice skylight in the middle, and there was literally a tree growing in the living room. That's how, it was a bit, there was still a tree in the middle of the living room, which tells you it's been untouched for quite some time. We got under contract for 165 and we sold it for 215. Funny thing, the person we sold it to sold it for another 40K. And then that person sold it to another person who double closed it for another 30 grand. So we actually left 70K on that table. We wanted to give the buyer a great deal. Apparently it was too good of a deal for him to flip, that he flipped the contract to another buyer and then one more time. So and purchase price was 285 to the end buyer. We assigned it, and then the other guys double closed it. So that was probably one of the most, like, at the very end, it was super intense, super stressful, super anxiety. Because we needed everyone to be on board and everyone on track of like, hey, okay, good. Okay, he's holding back these closing costs. Oh, there's this amount that's owed. Is seller willing to hold back some money in escrow? He said yes. This end buyer attorney thought he said no. Deal was about to completely fall apart again. We're like, no. Everyone is cool. Everyone chill out. We're moving forward. Everyone's cool. Seller knew how much we were making. Like, everyone was transparent about it, right? But if it didn't have that transparency in the very beginning, that deal would have fell apart 100%. Because it's just like, wait, you're making how much? It turns into, wait, you're making that much? You're making that much? So guys, if you're ever doing one of those JV deals, make sure everyone's comfortable with what they're making. Because all it takes is one person to kill the whole deal. Right? Sometimes there's multiple people on a deal. Make sure everyone is happy with what they're making. And if they're not, you need to have that conversation ASAP. So that was a big win though. Probably one of the more stressful ones I just closed. Was supposed to be an easy 10K assignment for me. Ended up having to take 5. The other guys that brought the deal to me. So this is how I know social media is working, because they're from Arkansas and found me on social media. So it works. They're from Arkansas. They locked up the deal over here in Chicago. It was a Dunning neighborhood. So northwest part of Chicago. This was a 3-unit brick building. So this is what everything was super, super smooth until the last hour before closing. Everything was super smooth. Lady was super nice. We went there. We went to go see the property. This thing was total full gut. There was mold growing on the 3rd floor from water in the basement. That could tell you like the extent of damage that this thing had. So she was nice enough to give us the keys to go in there and start pumping the water out. Because we're like, yeah, we need to at least get this water out for right now, right? So we had the keys, and then we were supposed to close actually April, like 1st, I think. First week of April, we were supposed to close. And unfortunately, the seller's attorney messed up the zoning certificate for the property. So guys, if you don't know, zoning certificate is a certificate stating whether it's a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, or if it's a single family in the city of Chicago. We needed to verify that it's a legal 3-unit. So that's what the zoning cert was for. But we had to wait another 3 more weeks to get the zoning cert back. It shouldn't take that long. It really should be about 5 to 7 business days. But things happen. So we were supposed to close first week of April. Couldn't close because we couldn't get the zoning cert. We're like, okay, we need to reorder the zoning cert. So we had to wait. For some reason, Chicago dragged feet, whatever. It wasn't until 3 weeks later that we were going to close. So seller had mentioned that she wanted to grab some stuff from the 2nd floor. We're like, oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, grab the stuff, whatever you want. Everything else that's trash, just leave it. Right. We gave her the lockbox code that week we were supposed to close. Please go grab your stuff. 1 hour before closing, we're like, okay, great, we're ready to close. For after 3 weeks of waiting, she tells us that she never went in to grab her stuff. We're like, oh crap. Okay. Okay, great. What do you need? Come to find out, the end buyer, our buyer in this situation, didn't tell us that he went in and demoed everything out.
Oh, jeez.
Everything garbage. Everything. And everything looked like garbage because he actually had video footage of everything. There was piles of garbage bags and clothes that's all molded over, like the garage, like they had an ice chest and like a lawnmower that was upside down, just a shit ton of trash. But he was never supposed to go in there and demo anything until we closed.
Right.
So this is one of those situations where sometimes fix and flippers are trying to get a head start on the work, which really bit us in the ass because it's like she started coming in claiming, well, I had fur coats in there, I had bonds, I had antique furniture, I had mahogany. I was like, and the guy sent me the video. I'm like, I don't. But nonetheless, we went in without her permission. Like she gave us permission to pump out the water. That was the only permission. Never permission to go in there to remove said items because honestly, it did look like trash. Like I saw videos of it and it was horrible. It's like, holy crap. Like we couldn't open the door because there was so much trash behind it. Nonetheless, I had to take 5K less. The buyer had to bring another 5K, and the 2 other wholesalers, they were actually supposed to make like a 60K spread on that thing, because they were going to double close on it. They actually had to bring another 15K they had to take a 15K cut because she demanded, money, and we agreed upon another 25 grand for her property. But yeah, all that work, it was super smooth. Everything was cool. Title was talking, attorneys were talking 1 hour before, shit show. And we didn't close until a week later because it was like negotiations, talk, like, her son's getting involved, this and that. She's like, well, you guys are taking advantage of us. It's like, well, no. Like, like, end buyer literally thought that she came in to grab her stuff that 3 weeks ago closing. So he thought it was okay to go in there and start demoing everything out. So again, communication, super, super key, transparency. If he would have told us he wanted to do that ahead, we would have told him no. Let her supposedly grab her mahogany fur coat furnitures and stuff. But at that point, we were in the fault, so we had to make it right. And you know, we made something. Something's better than nothing. So we still got the deal done. Not happy with what we were supposed to make, but seller was okay, who moved forward, clean title, everything, got the deal done. So that was a really hairy one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds very messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially last minute. Not biting.
Last minute. We were like, oh yeah, are you expecting a check, a nice wire into the bank account later today? Wasn't happening.
I want to shift gears now to Airbnb.
Airbnb.
So if you could tell us maybe brief overview, what is Airbnb? How do you do it? Just a quick.
So
what is Airbnb?
Airbnb is short-term rentals, right? This is where you're putting your property on Airbnb, VRBO, maybe Furnish Finder. There's a couple other smaller websites out there as well. And this is my very first Airbnb. Actually, technically didn't end up being an Airbnb. So again, guys, speaking from experience, this was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I was trying to do too many things, right? I still made it work, but I honestly think the return on it ended up biting me in the butt. But for the most part, now it's okay. This was so there's something called arbitrage where you can rent and then have the ability to sublet it out to turn it into an Airbnb. So I actually never have to buy the property, right? The landlord still owns it. They're still going to be responsible for all the major items in the property, but then I'm in there as an Airbnb or Airbnb tenant guy that's coming to sublet. I'm in there because I'm going to make everything nice, right? Because if it doesn't look nice, it's not going to do well on Airbnb. So I was fortunate enough that this is my aunt's building in Lincoln Park. Is a 2-bed, 1-bath, and in the heart of Lincoln Park, about a block away from Brown Line Armitage stop. I'm like, yes, this is going to be a gold mine. So in Chicago, if it's 4 units or less, it has to be your primary residence, right? I thought I was in the clear because this property is a 7-unit mixed use property. The PIN number shows it as 1 commercial space and 6 residential units. So I was like, okay, perfect, no problem. I don't have to worry about that. Go to apply for my Airbnb license, they deny me. I'm like, why? Oh, so apparently it's the way they put it is 3 units per building. But that building is a little bit ambiguous because that property had 3 addresses: 1118, 1114, and 1112. 1118 only had 3 units in it. Even though it was 1 building, 1 PIN number, I even send the Cook County Assessor's description of the property to the city of Chicago, and they're like, no, sorry, too bad. I'm like, oh. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I actually went to Furnish Finder because if you can lease it out technically for 30 days or more, you're technically a tenant, but you could still do monthly rentals, right? Monthly furnished rentals. So Furnish Finder, I had a couple people that stayed 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then I got lucky. I just put it on Zillow as a furnished rental. Now I've had tenants in there for the past 2 years. What's nice, I definitely lowered the amount that I could be making as an Airbnb, but I don't have to worry about turnover. I don't have to worry about washing the sheets, getting the cleaning crew in there, managing reviews, updating anything. It's just the girls are in there. They like it. They only brought their luggage. They've been there for the past 2 years, and I cash flow. That one I'm renting at 2,100, and now I Airbnb it, or midterm strategy turn into long-term strategy Airbnb it for 2,800. So I cash flow 700, and I have 0 operating costs though. So that actually turned out to be a win. Second one was in Ukrainian Village. That one I partnered up with some guys. So this was a brand new unit, completely full gut rehab. The whole building was gutted and rehab, stainless steel appliances. It still had like it still had the user agreement in the washer,
Mm,
right? It was
random.
so brand new, right? And we thought, okay, great, this place looks great. We're gonna rent it out, Airbnb. We were paying way too much in rent. We were paying $3,000, $3,000 a month in rent as a 2-bed, 2-bath, but everything was pristine. But the funny thing is, it was your basic pristine. It was your basic luxury package. It had nothing cool about it. The one in Lincoln Park, I actually have white appliances still in it, but it had that old school Lincoln Park charm. And the location definitely helps. But this other property in Ukrainian Village is a little bit far from the public trans, but it was off of um oh man, I'm forgetting about it right here. But anyways, that one, nothing really special about it. It was very good looking, very nice, but it had nothing unique about it. And that one, we actually ended up losing money. So after a whole year of operating it, we got rid of it, sold all the furniture, and moved on with our lives. Yeah. So, guys, if you guys want to do Airbnb though, I would recommend hitting up my guy Ditron, Ditron. He is in the Airbnb space. He's now doing Airbnbs in different countries, which is really, really cool. But yeah, definitely hit him up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. Speaking about legality and regulations here in
Mhm.
Chicago, how does someone, where do they go to learn about it, or whether it's different? Is it just
Oh, best place.
Chicago based?
Best way, go to the Daily Center. Go to the Small Business Center. They'll tell you everything that you need to know. Yeah, they're actually there to help you to understand, like, oh, can I do it with this property? Can I not do it with this property? Yeah, they were very helpful in letting me know, because I had shown them. I'm like, hey, bro, it's a 7 year mixed commercial property. He's like, yeah, I know. I see the same thing as you, but I don't make the decision. He's like, best thing you could do is they call it a commissioner's adjustment, I think.
Okay.
That you have to get, essentially it's like a little petition, right? You get a letter from your neighbors saying that you're okay doing this, and then you're also writing a letter as to why it's going to help the community. And hopefully they take it, love your writing, and accept it. But I haven't met anybody that's actually gone through that whole process.
And then when someone does obtain a Airbnb, what's the best way to make it a cash cow? How can they squeeze the most about it? What do they have to do differently, whether it's location or the property itself?
The one thing that I've learned is it's got to have an X factor. Like, it's got to have an X factor. If you're creating like a theme type Airbnb, understand who is your actual customer, right? Is it your business traveler? Is it your, digital nomad, right? Someone that needs Wi-Fi internet, like on point, right? Is it someone that likes nature and stuff like that, right? Are you doing one of those log cabins out, right? Or one of those A-frames out in the, you know, in some of the, close to the forest preserves, right? So it's understanding, it's creating an X factor, because you're creating an environment, you're creating a vibe. And that's what's going to attract those people to your Airbnb. If you want to create something basic, then you might as well just go to a hotel, right? If you want to create an experience, you have an X factor. So I know here in the city of Chicago, one of the big things is having an accent wall, right? Something really nice that it really pops out. That's really cool to look at. Here we don't have too much outdoor space or basement rooms, but in other parts of the country where you have space, rec rooms, right? You have the ping pong table, you have the pool table, you have maybe the pinball machines. It's like a gaming room where it's just stuff to do. Yeah.
Awesome. And our last point I want to touch on is multifamily syndication.
Yes.
So
Another
give us
thing I should have waited, but I went for it anyways. This I wanted to do multifamily syndication because I wanted to own bigger assets, right? I didn't want to be a landlord, but I wanted to own property. So this was my thought process of doing multifamily syndication. And there's a lot of great mentors and coaches out there, I've definitely overpaid for what I believe to be a great product. But most of the time, like for example, I actually dropped like 39,000 for this course, for this mentorship for the network. Right. And everything, like, they had a lot of success, this stories and that stories, come to realize none of them would ever come to Chicago. No, and I wanted to do deals here in Chicago. I didn't really feel confident trying to do deals out in other states, and it's totally possible. But like, there's a lot of things they don't really. They're they try to get you on the sale of the education, but when it really comes down to the actual deals and who you're actually dealing with, I wish they would have been a little bit transparent with that, right? In my mind, like, I already know a bunch of investors. This would be a great product. Funny thing, the local investor here likes control of their own deal. When you're doing multifamily syndications, they don't have that much control, right? It's just you put your money in there and then wait for a return, which ideally, your ideal clientele is actually high income earners, tech jobs, doctors, attorneys, dentists, right? Someone that makes multiple six figures a year and needs to do something with their money. Right. I think that's what multifamily syndication. I feel like a lot of them don't really explain that. And I didn't really have that kind of network. Most of my network was middle class, blue collar, hardworking, right? They weren't accredited investors. And but nonetheless, I had an opportunity to raise capital on a deal and I took it. And I took that with my partner and we were able to, we had a small portion, right? So what is really cool, I still rent myself, guys. I'm still trying to find that dream home for myself. But I technically now am a part owner in 277 doors in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right? Thank you. Yeah. I got a little piece of it. But nonetheless, raising capital, there's really four parts. There's raising capitals, there's underwriting, there's sponsoring the deals, and there's asset management, right? Those are the four main roles when it comes to multifamily syndication. Your underwriters, right? They're the ones number crunching. Is this a deal? Do the numbers make sense? Are we going to profit? What's going to be our loss? What is our projections, right? The capital raisers, right? They're the ones that are asking for money. That's actually probably the most sought out position in there because it's you're just building relationships, right? And but you got to ask, so when can you wire in that 100K? Tomorrow? Great. Okay, awesome. All right. Oh, is 100K, is that it? Do you have 200? Right? Raising capital, and then your sponsor on the deal. So they're very much like your co-signer on the deal. Best way I can explain it, right? They're the ones with the experience and the knowledge, and they're the ones that can actually get approved for the loans needed to take down these very large assets. Right? There might be one, there might be two of them on a deal sometimes, right? An asset manager, they're the ones that actually perform on what you're trying to do. They're the ones managing, property manager, they're the ones turning the units, they're the ones well, actually technically they don't say rehab, they say reposition. Right, we're going to reposition the asset, we're not going to rehab the asset, right? So little inside knowledge. But multifamily syndication, it was a great learning experience. It takes a team, which I really like that aspect of it. But at the same time too, some of these deals, like, you're not making any money for a very long time. So it's like, okay, great. So I stuck back to wholesaling because I got bills today. But yeah.
And thanks for letting us know the different roles and what a team kind of looks like for syndication.
Yes.
What does a typical due diligence structure look like though, or a structure in a syndication deal?
You're going to be asking for all the financials, right? They call it a T12. A T12 is what they call the trailing past 12 months because they actually want to see the actual performance of the property. And there's little things of like, oh yeah, rents are at 1,800, but then half of them aren't paying. Right? So little things like that. So in your underwriting process, you want to see what is actually supposed to be collected and then what is actually being collected. that tells you a little bit about the health of the property management of its tenants. Are they staying on top of it? And the other thing is all the expenses, right? Every syndicator investor, the expenses are going to be a little bit different. For the most part, some of them are going to be pretty much the same, like when it comes to insurance, roughly the same. Like garbage, possibly the water bill, understanding where your margins are at, but they want to understand, was it going to cost me to operate this business? And what they're going to do is like, okay, well, it costs him this much to operate this business. What is it actually going to cost me to operate this business? And where can I find my margin? Now I'm going to make some money, right? And then on the other end, okay, how can I increase rents? But also, how can I just in general increase revenue? Am I going to put in coin laundry machines? Am I going to put in probably another rec center to increase somehow increase more value to increase rents? Am I going to put like rental cars, right? Am I going to have storage lockers, right? Like every single dollar adds to that bottom line. So they're thinking about, how can I increase revenue? How can I decrease expenses? And then they're going to go to either refinance that asset or sell that asset. Most of the time, they're going to sell that property. Most of the time, they're going to sell that property because most of the loans that they're getting, they don't want to hold on to them for 30 years. No, they want to get out of them. Yeah.
All right, let's give Jeff a round. Oh, yeah. We got something they can implement today.
Implement
Do we got
today.
any implementation, right? I didn't see anyone taking notes. I'm a note taker. Some big takeaways I got from Jeff. Number one, don't give up, right? I think that's the easiest thing to take away is not stopping doing what we're doing and being consistent. I know, just like Jeff, my biggest struggle was focus. So staying in one thing, trying to figure it out. And sometimes it's easier to try a couple different things to try to find the right thing out.
Yeah.
But now that I found the right thing, I'm staying in my lane. Number one skill any of us can develop is communication. People can connect with you afterwards and figure out how to be better communicators. And then I think the number one tip I like the most was the best list is the one that you work the most. And I think that's sometimes easy to forget because it's really hard to be consistent when you get no over and over and over again. I always like to make sure people know how to get a hold of you. Can you let us know, is it social, email, phone?
Yeah, social media, Jeff Ma Real Estate. You can find me on IG. I am on LinkedIn, but I'm not active on LinkedIn. I'm actually mostly active on Facebook. You can find my business page pretty easily, but finding me is a little bit that's a different tag, but find me on social media. You'll see this face. You'll see this
Jeff
hat.
Ma Real Estate. Can't miss it.
Yes. And if you guys want to hit me directly, my phone number is 847-414-0758.
All right, let's get another applause from Jeff Ma.